Hi everyone, I'm Shane Snipes, and this is That Matters Live, and we're in Martha's Vineyard for our live broadcast show. We're in a really cool kitchen right here, you can see, and I have two really nice guys sitting next to me. They look really serious, but they're not. I know this already. Smile, guys.
We're with you all the way, Shane.
So we're going to have a fantastic show today. I've got here to my left John, and he runs South Mountain, which is a building company, but also a community building company, and it's owner-operated and owner-owned. He's going to be talking about the hows and whys of how that can happen, and how sustainability can actually get woven into business. He's written a fantastic book as well. And let me switch over to my co-host Monica, because I want her to get a chance to introduce our other guest, Steve.
Well, I'm Monica Mitchell, and we're with ThatMatters. I am the founder of Good Business New York, and we are in Martha's Vineyard, West Tisbury, in my house. And right to my right, that's my right, stage left, is Steve Bernier, who happens to be a friend and a fantastic man who owns Cronin's Island Market. He's also one of the pioneers, along with John Abrams, of the island sustainability movement and renewable energy. We're going to talk a lot about how they are coming together as community leaders in an island that has 100,000 people, am I right, in the summer, and 10,000 people in the winter, and really staying true to their values and staying true to their vision of sustainability and community. So thanks so much for being here, both of you.
Nice to be here. Very welcome.
Thank you. I also want to mention...
And on YouTube, guys, don't forget to tweet and Facebook us. You can do @GoodB. Just head over to Twitter and send us some questions, or go to facebook.com/ThatMatters. Send us your questions. That's the easiest way to do it while we're live. I'll be looking at my phone and asking you all kinds of interesting questions. They get to ask us questions too if they want at any.
And we have Ron too off camera, so thank you, Ron, for being there. I want to talk to you also about the Island Grown Initiative, both of you, but I'd like to talk a little bit first about your history here on the island. You know, every year in August when Obama comes up or the Clintons come up, there's some big splashes across the New York Times and every paper across the country about Martha's Vineyard, this paradise for the rich and famous and playground for the rich and famous, and you know, the Obamas are part of the elite ritzy set, the glamorous set. And everybody on the island who knows the island well thinks, really? That's not the Martha's Vineyard I know. And what is it that, you know, is so special about this place that makes it unique, that makes it actually quite the antithesis of a playground for the rich and famous? Because even the rich and famous here are quiet and low-key and, you know, part of the community in a very real way that's very unique here than anywhere else.
I think some of that has to do with it's a beautiful place. Martha's Vineyard has its physical attributes, but it having 6 towns and being very laid back allows those people to come in, get into the woods and relax and enjoy themselves. So I think we have a nice mix here. And I think it does not have the surface stuff of some other ritzy places. It's really laid back and it's beautiful, and they seem to come here and enjoy it. And enjoy being here.
I think also part of the history of visitors from away coming here in the summertime, it started with an offbeat collection of people. Early on, there were a lot of academics, a lot of artists, a lot of writers, people that weren't in the mainstream of the culture, and who had a tremendous amount of respect for the place as it was, and their interest was not in bringing their other lives here, but in experiencing life here. And that undercurrent, even though it gets lost sometime in in sort of upscale culture, it's still there. It's still the heart of the place. It's the heart of the matter. So it's always been a place that people have come to really be a part of. And this is a community. What we experience here, it's a community that loves children, that loves its tightness and its closeness, and yet the whole thing of the summer visitors is a big part of it, and that's part of the cross-pollination. It's part of the interest of the place. It's part of the excitement. So it all meshes in a very nice way here.
Yeah, and I just want to follow up with a general question too that I got. People say that, Martha's Vineyard has this aura of being really sort of detached from the world. And as a resident, do you feel a strong connection to, say, Massachusetts or to other parts of the world, or say to the movement of green building or to the food movement? Do you feel a connection to those places being on an island?
Totally, yeah. I mean, it doesn't really matter that it's an island in that sense. We always, and as a company, we feel entirely connected to so much that's not here. So I don't think it's remote. I don't think it's isolated in that way. But it is, when you get on that boat and you go 45 minutes across the water, you do feel like you're in a different place.
See,
Not disconnected, but in a different place.
I mean, there's so many places like that, because when you were describing the artists and the painters and the writers and the people that really care about community and came from a different place and settled here, like the two of you really in a lot of ways. I used to go out to East Hampton, and that was just like it. Maybe not when I was a kid, but it was for artists and writers, and it's not like that now. I mean, the Hamptons is a very different place. Even Nantucket's different than it was when I was a kid, very different. Parts of the Cape have changed, but something about the Vineyard has kept together an unusual community, a collaborative kind of community where people are so focused on, people really are concerned here. This is my experience, not everybody, but most everyone. The year-rounders or anybody that even comes for the summer, they catch the fever of, let's take care of this island. Let's make sure that we can reuse the resources. There's a consciousness of that I find here. I don't see that elsewhere at other beach, at islands, even islands.
And take care of the people. There's a very strong social conscience here. The affordable housing movement on this island has been so strong for many, many years. The sense that you not only have to preserve the island, but you have to engage in people preservation as well. So as people started to leave the island because they couldn't afford to be here, people worked very, very hard. It's always been kind of a core part of what our company does too, is doing affordable housing that is high quality, that is truly affordable long term. So this place does have a social conscience, there's no doubt about it.
Steve, I want to hear. I know you have so much to say, and you're just waiting to jump in.
Well, as I'm listening to John describe the lay of the land, that we have 6 towns makes us much different than Nantucket. That we have Cottage City in the Black community in Oak Bluffs, that we have the Wampanoags in Aquina, that we have all the artists, the theater, the painters, the writers. And they're not in small proportion. Each one of those groups has a very strong foothold in what functions on this island. And I think those people being here helped us islanders through the years be more socially conscious of neighbors, because there are so many people who are on the fringe. There are so many people doing their passion, not trying to make a buck. So the island created a very interesting quilt of dynamics that gave us a very broad, level playing field where social consciousness became in the DNA, so that the stuff when the housing movement came on, everybody was jumping on it and saying, we need to support that.
There is an amazing diversity here. You think about what happened when the Brazilian population started to grow, and suddenly, maybe a quarter or a fifth of the population was Brazilian after a number of years, and it changed the music, it changed the food, it changed the work ethic. It was huge.
But there is a difference because, it's been huge, and I think the Wampanoags and the African American Oak Bluffs community, like cultural artists, writers, intellectuals, professors. I mean, it's extremely vibrant, but all of the people on the island it's really very much like that. But I think what I've seen so different, and I remember it started with Art Bookwald. One of the first times I ever came here was Impossible Dreams. And he was talking about how we have a responsibility, exactly what you said, to the people who take care of us all year round, like, help our businesses, help our homes, help our lives. And which is something I'll talk to both of you about because you're here year round and you do that every day. But unlike other places where some of the, where maybe a community like the Brazilian community would come in, literally they would ship them out after the summer and that would be the end of it. Here, people wanted to keep people here and people understood, okay, well, we owe you something. You're partnering with us. There's this attitude that I find more than anything here of partnering. And I think it's exemplified in both your business.
Not that it was about us, it was about them. And they started to put their kids in the schools, they started to start businesses.
But people supported it. Like, for example, Steve, you have a huge community of employees. And I remember we've had talks about that, how your responsibility is to in terms of pay and how your responsibility is, remember you're going to close on Sundays, but it hurt the employees, you reopened. There's a lot of things that you do, both of you, that are particularly for the partnership of employees with you as an employer, your partners, right? You collaborate.
Yeah, but I think what John was trying to say, and I'm trying to say now, is it isn't about us. It shouldn't be about us. The elements that are on this island, so the Brazilian community shows up here about 15 years ago. They fell in love with this island just the way we do.
Yeah.
It's no different. Their social service needs, whatever. You have the first question, the first round of questions. Who's going to pay for this? Who's going to take care of this? Well, it's interesting because of the quilt that makes up this island, we get over that, we move on, and we start collaboration, may not be the support systems to make everybody feel welcome.
Mm-hmm.
And then to get into our heads, the idea of, well, we all have to live here year round because we don't pack up and leave. We're here all winter. So we're here with them. So you shouldn't treat them as a second-class person on this island.
So how do you translate that to, we have a big raging discussion in America now about healthcare, what's in it for me kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a raging conversation about immigration, go home, even though we're all immigrants by our ancestry. I mean, so how do we translate this ethic of, we're in this together, where we have to learn how to live together to the greater country, the mindset? I mean, what's the secret?
That's very kind of you to call it a conversation that's going on.
Yeah.
It's something else, I think. And it's not what's going on in communities all across America. It's something that's truly pathological. And I don't think that the Vineyard is fundamentally different from most small communities that people want to be. Beautiful places, vibrant places. There is a tremendous sense of cooperation and collaboration in this country, but it does fly under the radar.
I just wanted to jump back a little bit to that employee question because I got a great question from Philip Ramsey yesterday because he looked and saw that you're employee owned, right? And he just wanted to understand better what you thought of in terms of it being a good thing and how it worked for you to start your company and make it employee owned. What was that process like?
Well, I mean, it really was very much a familial business, a bunch of very close friends. And at a certain point, two of my oldest friends and oldest employees came to me and said, we don't really want to go off and start our own businesses, which is the typical route. We want to stay here for our careers, but we need something better than an hourly wage. We need more of a stake. And at that point, we started looking at models and thought, well, if we're successful here, more people will want the same thing and be looking for the same thing. So we set up a structure whereby it became a worker cooperative that anybody that was there for 5 years could buy in. I think I really thought we were just formalizing what already was. Nothing could have been further from the truth. It was really a dramatic hinge point in the history of the company because people had this new sense of themselves as owners and as all of us together in this undertaking. And I think that what really happens is that when the people who are making the decisions share in the rewards of those decisions and share in the consequences, better decisions happen. So I don't believe that I ever could have had the same business without this structure that really made everybody a part of it. And I think that holds true in companies that are employee-owned and that aren't employee-owned, but where everybody's in it together and sharing in the successes. It's huge.
Yeah,
That's what business is about.
I just want to reflect the question over to you because you have a different structure at your company, and so the way you have engaged with your employees is also a really important process. How is it different than what Don was just talking about?
In many ways, it's not any different, but it is. It's a 50-50 relationship where after hearing what John was doing, I read John's book, got a little jealous, and tried to take that model into the grocery store, and it didn't quite fit on. And to nobody's fault, but it just missed on a few test points that the way a grocery store is set up, he's got more people somewhat at the same level, professional, and in relationship to them decision-making, the grocery store doesn't function that way. So the relationships there are of a different place. Yet, we're one of the few companies left that have a pension plan. We don't do the 401ks, okay? We do have a bonus program that's significant. And the people do share in the success of the company, but I couldn't fit on. Now, the thing is, it may be still yet to come, and the equation may continue to shift, and then that piece of John's may fit onto us someday, and maybe it's that I can't figure it out yet. So we're open to all of that, but treating people fairly, my competition for years would, after Columbus Day, put people down to 30 hours and take away their medical coverage for the winter and turn it back on Memorial Day. We don't do any of that stuff. We send off pension plan checks to Brazil for a guy who retired and was working, and he came in the summer and just filled the paper, water, and juice. And when he received a check from our pension plan after he left, the ripples went around Brazil and the comments back and forth to the people here because they didn't believe in what I said to them till the check showed up in the guy's mailbox in Brazil.
Right, and to go back to the point about the healthcare going away, because no one gets sick in the wintertime. So why have healthcare, right? I mean, what's the point of that?
All right, you can be silly. I want to ask, John, I want to ask both of you this question, but from a different perspective. Your book, and I'm going to read the whole name because I know it well, I have read it, Companies We Keep, but employee ownership, it's called Companies We Keep, Employee Ownership in the Business of Community in Place. And it was published by Chelsea Green. So it talks about a little bit, in terms of what you have done, which is sustainable building, I want to talk to both of you about sustainability because it's not always the most profitable thing. And some people cut corners and they just go the other route. So you have made a conscious choice, both of you. We'll talk about what you've done in front of your store and some of the things you have done. But I want to talk, John, what made you come here and decide? Did you start with green building? You came here in the late 70s. Did you decide you were going to do that then, or?
We never decided anything. It always just happened. But that was our interest from the very beginning, and we didn't call it green building, and we still don't call it green building. We call it good building. And it has to do with resources, with taking care of the land, with taking care of the stuff, all of that. It was kind of baked into our DNA. We were a bunch of wandering hippies, and that's what we did. But, excuse me, one of the things that became so apparent to us as we did our practice, because we always designed and built, and it was the integration of architecture and engineering and building that was the most appealing, that the system of building in this country these days has become a relay race. You know, the architect takes it and then hands it off to the engineer hands it off to the building. Nobody knows what anybody else is doing. We thought, let's assemble all of this together and make something that truly works. So, in a sense, it feels to us like that's the way that you make, that you can make a sustainable built environment, if you can call it sustainable. We're light years from that, working at it all the time. But that was always the way we practiced. We designed what we built what we designed.
And so how long have you been doing it that way?
38 years.
Right, so, and now it's,
And we're still doing the same
it's a fad
stuff.
and a movement now. So how do you feel about being head of that? You too, Steve. I mean, you've been conscious of this for 27 years. When did you evolve in it?
You're trying to deal with the vogueness of it and the labeling to it, what John's trying to communicate and what I lived through. You didn't start out with this thing in your frontal lobe. I'm going to go do this. You evolved through trial and error, through relationships, putting the team together, like-mindedness.
And it was all about quality, right? That's all. Just trying to do a good job.
What's interesting when you come to the point about community and sustainability piece is really about relationship and respecting all that is. There's a piece in here where thinking of coming today, I wanted to ask John. We grew up in a system that demanded from you to get educated, get sensitive to learn to make money. Okay? If you weren't able to do that, you were no good. What's interesting is he's walked his path, I've walked mine. We don't normally, by the way, sit like this next to each other.
Well, yeah.
Okay? But the thing is, I think what's beautiful about Martha's Vineyard is that it allowed me to separate myself enough to come back and value the equation of life and all of its quality points. It wasn't about making money. Because you cannot be in a place where you're concerned about what you're giving when you're trained and educated to be thinking about what you can take. So community, we spend a lot of time sharing our assets, sharing our experiences, helping others to put the puzzle together. So do I get great benefit and great feeling from what I accomplished for me? No, I get great benefit from what I'm doing within my community and for that community. So then when you get around that corner, now you can start working on figuring out, okay, now how do you get this to be sustainable?
Right, now, are there challenges with that, choosing to, to follow an integrity line like this? Are there economic challenges, everyday business challenges? I mean, there's been dips here with.
It's really just the way you see it, I
Right.
think. This community sustains us. His business, my business, and it takes great care of us. And so it's just a reciprocal arrangement that feels right. It's almost like how families work. This is just a much bigger one. And it's our job to help our community thrive as we thrive. So where I see in our very small realm, in our company, our job as a company is to do good work and to support each other. And then it's also to support the community. So it just, I just go back, it just seems to be, it's in the DNA of what we do. It's not special, it's not, I don't think it's out of the ordinary. It's what feels good as a way to do business.
John, do you think you'd be where you are now with what you've accomplished at South Mountain Company if that company were set up someplace else? Did the ambiance, the essence of Martha's Vineyard help you or give you the platform or the stage to work off of to help that all happen?
It entirely did. I think that the other places where we lived before the Vineyard, Vermont, British Columbia, could have happened there the same. It does seem to me that we are a community business and we need a supportive, strong, vibrant, beautiful place to do what we do. So in that way, absolutely, the Vineyard has been phenomenal. It's been a great place to raise children. It's been a great place to build a business.
And I would say, for your part, Steve, too, you came in and saw a grocery store and visited it, and Kronig's is named after a very good friend of yours, and you came and got that store. What was your impetus to become a grocer on a small island versus the grocer that you were in Massachusetts before then?
The impetus was not being happy in a corporate environment, not being told to do things that were not neighborly, were not supportive and properly taking care of, say, employees, forget about the customer. So I wanted to get out on my own because there was something burning inside of me that wanted to do it different. Now, I can't say I sat down and had the intellectual property to sit there and make you bullet points to all of the above. It's a feeling you have in the bottom of your stomach, so to speak. That when I came here, I was told by the company I was leaving, "You're crazy, this is too much money, there's no way you can succeed on your own, you need all this other corporate support." And it was all horse feathers. Because we're live, it's horse feathers. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And then the guy who I bought the business from 10 years later, he still had the key to the front door and the combination of the safe. And we did the deal on a handshake. So that just antithesized what it is you're walking into. It hit me right in the face. And then Robbie sitting there, he passed away a few years ago at the ripe age of 89. But he didn't do community. He had a feeling for it. He basically framed to me many times in the first few years. You're lucky we're on this island and we're insulated because those people need to take care of this business. Well, he was missing a piece of that equation that I also needed to take care of them so they could take care of me. And it's that evolution of movement and energy and feeling that makes our community so damn special.
So let's talk about that. Is pretty awesome, Stephen. That reminds me of the bigger picture and the bigger question. We're trying to kind of delve into some of the unique aspects that are unique to me. Having lived in New York for a long time, these are unique things. And travel quite a bit, and try to bring this this kind of spirit of community and collaboration out into the world. So we're in the place of environmental sustainability now. It's pretty urgent. Climate change is a major concern. A lot of people are, for some weird, remarkable reason, still denying it's even happening. But there's a movement now to, pay attention. And it's not coming fast enough. But you both are involved with Vineyard Power, or I think that's an organization that was created from the island. I was at one of the first meetings, and there was the conversation about creating renewable energy here on the island through wind power or however it would happen. And it's a slow process. So can you tell me a little bit about what are some of the walls that you're reaching with that and how it's working and where you think it's going? I mean, I know the idea was to be off the grid really totally in like 10 years. That was the ultimate idea.
How to say it in a very few words. I mean, climate change it's amazing that people are denying that it's going to happen in the future when it's something that is not a part of our future. It's a part of our present, right now, happening. And it's interesting to watch the arc of the development of people like Bill McKibben going from a mild-mannered writer, a very good one, to an explosive activist in a way, and see that this whole thing is moving so quickly. Renewable energy is moving as fast. It truly is. And the idea of Vineyard Power has been to supply a large fraction of the island's energy from offshore wind, onshore solar, and creating a storage system that is really dependent on a fleet of electric vehicles. And it's the biggest development project in the Vineyard's history. It's going to take 10 or 15 years, but it's underway. And the difference between when we first started playing with solar in the early 70s and what is happening now, it is absolutely extraordinary. And the kinds of things like what Steve did at his store that we can do now, it's not only changing rapidly, and it's not like the technology industry where it changes over and over and over in a short period of time. It's a slow climb, but it's not only changing rapidly, but it is the adoption rate is incredible. Our solar business at this point, we can't even keep up with it, and it is people are seeing that this just makes total sense. We must do it, and there's no reason not to. There's nothing in the way anymore, except the fossil fuel industry, which is tough.
Yeah, exactly.
Except that little thing.
So Steve, talk about the project in front of your business. What was its initiative? How did you come up with the idea, or did someone approach you in the grocery store and say, "Hey, you should have solar panels"?
He's a troublemaker.
Tell us what it is. Do you have the picture? Yeah, we've got the
I may be the troublemaker, but he's the doer.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That was a step out.
Yeah, it's a huge. Okay, we'll explain it for anybody who doesn't know. You explain it. Steve.
So at the Kronig's parking lot, we have 3 sets of solar arrays, about 210 kW. And we started out the initiative with this has to go up on the rooftop. Well, the way the building was designed to get that up onto the roof was going to take a bit of work. And my relationship with my customers was looking at this picture and going, how we all are as human beings, out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
And I think I may have asked a question at a point there about, well, what about doing this in the parking lot? Well, the first thing that comes up is you don't have the superstructure that you have for the roof already. So you have to build and spend a lot more money. And then that evolved into, well, gee, what about charging stations for electric cars? Well, we don't have any electric cars, really. Well, so here I was out in the parking lot the other morning. It was November 12th, and it's 8:30 in the morning, and right out in front of the store, there's 2 electric cars plugged in at the same time. So I look at the last year and a half and the evolution that's happened. I've had customers come up and tell me that Kronig's doing this plug-in routine for electric cars probably has stimulated the sale of electric cars of about 25 to 30 cars.
You know why Steve was out in the parking lot early in the morning?
Oh, well, let's talk about that. I do know
You
why.
know what he does every morning?
Yes,
What?
every morning at 6.
Every morning, early in the morning, if you ever want to find Steve and you're having a hard time connecting and you can't get a meeting together, just go to the parking lot at 6:30 in the morning. He's sweeping the parking lot. He keeps it spotless. He does
That's true.
a hell of a job. But that's where you learn about. That's where you talk to people, right?
Yeah, and that's where you have a view of the business. And so when I go to a meeting with Vineyard Power and with John Abrams, and they start talking about this concept, it was easy to plug it in. It was easy to figure out. And then the other side of it, that on the island here versus watching the workers come in off the boat to us, is the phrase that came from this is developing the intellectual property on this island with a company like South Mountain to do these kind of installs. And then to look ahead and picture 6 or 8 of these around the island. So as people would have electric cars, they could be gone for the day and not have any worries. So it just was a happenstance of technology, timing.
John,
It
you
was a
built
great
it?
project.
You built it?
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
We-
Oh, okay.
And the kind of the basis for the concept is that in this country, we have 4,000 square miles of parking lot that is distressed real estate that's being used for a single purpose, the temporary storage of automobiles. And it is already there waiting to be used. So we need this stuff, but where are we gonna put it? We don't wanna put it on good farmland. There aren't that many landfills. So this is a perfect place to put solar, and that's one of the reasons we wanted to do that, is to show that it can be done, that it can be done economically. And it was a great collaboration. We had fun.
And it was also challenging for us and a little unnerving at times, but going before the Martha's Vineyard Commission and realizing we're talking about doing something center stage. So we weren't off in the woods, we weren't up a back road, we were doing that right on State Road. So the commitment that the two of us had to make with our abilities and our partnering to deliver these goods on something we had never done before.
We didn't know. We didn't know how to do this when we
Yet
started.
when we got done, we did not take one parking space away from the store. You look at it now, and with the plantings starting to grow up around it, it all fits in. And the strange email I got from this lady after the first summer of the side being done, she had taken pictures with her cell phone. She had gone back to Winchester, Mass, walked into the Whole Foods, grabbed the manager, and said, "Why do I have to go to an island to go see a progressive grocer that's doing something right? Look at these solar panels. I'll give you 6 months to get them here in this lot." So it's Martha's Vineyard, all these tourists coming and going and so forth. Is this helping to plant a seed, create some motivation, show somebody the path? It can't do anything but good.
Well, who's paying for the electric? I just want to ask that. Because I know the drivers are not paying for it.
I pay for the electric.
Right.
You have to, what's coming down off of those solar arrays is direct current.
Right.
So that goes down to the basement, to an inverter, and out to the grid. In the process of wanting to make this a community initiative,
Right.
and we just use a trickle charge, so it costs about 75 cents to have someone plug in, go in shopping, come back out. Well,
But I think that people are finding out that if they go to Konings and plug their electric vehicle in, and they shop really, really slow, and spend a lot of time chatting, it pays off.
No, it's like gas is like $5 a gallon. I'm telling you, that's a really great idea. I mean, I want to get.
But then the other thing,
Yeah.
there are these other customer benefits. So people are parking in the shade, and their car isn't 110 degrees in the summer. They are putting their bags of groceries in the car out of the rain. So it's got this whole cascading group of benefits that
Plus, I want to
a
mention
nice
that,
match.
Steve, like now, I'm still going into grocery stores out off the island that have plastic bags. And we all know that big plastic bag dump in the ocean somewhere off the California coast that nobody talks about. Well, how many years ago did you stop using plastic bags?
Actually, it's been a long time, Monica. I think it's 96 years now since Concord started in 1917.
I don't remember ever.
There have never been plastic
Really?
bags in the store.
Wow, I thought you stopped it. I'm like, oh, stop plastic bags.
That's a long
I guess it was me that stopped it. I said, okay.
You were in the wrong store. Yeah.
I think it was just my consciousness about 5-6 years ago where I'm like, oh, I'm not using
And the
plastic.
thing is,
Yeah.
again, like a community piece and about the profitability side, one of those plastic bags I can buy for no more than a penny and a half. A paper bag that we use, that extra thickness with the handles, costs 10.6 cents. You have no idea how many of those we use per year. So that's a huge place where it'd be really easy to make some quick money and to introduce those plastic bags, which because of people and their habits in so many stores, would do without thinking twice. Except on the island here, they'd be dragging me out back, tar and feathered, and that's it, he'd be all done.
Absolutely. I got some great comments from folks when they heard I was coming to Martha's Vineyard. Just folks raving about how wonderful and beautiful it is here. People talking about your solar panels, actually. There was quite a few comments because there are a bunch of eco and sustainability-minded folks that follow me in social networks. That was one thing that they were saying. A question came across that I wanted to ask. Do you think about future generations with the decisions that you make? A kid he's a 16-year-old kid, he's done all his sustainability work in Arizona. And he specifically said, I wish there were people like this in my small town that were doing this.
The thing is, there are. We are everywhere. The thing is, and I hope this kind of networking can raise our consciousness to shake the tree a little bit and get us empowered, because John and I sitting down with Richard Andre and Paul Pimentel that day, it was our mutual relationship and being on Martha's Vineyard allowed us a safe haven to think outside the box and to take that crazy step and to go to the Martha's Vineyard Commission. And the thing is, we live on this island physically, the water land issue. You can go to any community and draw a line, and there's that community and its boundaries. You just don't have the water piece. You still have community there. So hopefully all of what we're doing, we keep shaking the tree towards, let's do what's right, what feels good. Because the stuff we're seeing in the news, the stuff we're watching with our government, is none of us. What John's done with that company and what John did in my parking lot, every day I'm out there, I look at that and I smile. So is that for future generations? Yeah, and it's something we're proud of. So if we do the right thing today, it is for future generations. It becomes automatically. So it isn't a scheme. It isn't a big master plan. You and I have planned nothing.
Well, it's little steps, right?
Just small steps.
Yeah, it's just getting together and what you guys are trying to do with this. And then.
And I had a quick question too from another person, from Jeff, and this came from Boston actually. Thanks, Jeff, for your question. It was really interesting. You said, I have so many people who say a green building is too expensive for me, I can never do it. What's your address to that? Because
It's just way too expensive not to do it. What you pay up front comes back to you for years and years and years, and that truly is about for the next generations. And if it's done smart, it doesn't have to be particularly expensive. There are parts of it that cost a little more. We have found that we can't do anything else. We don't know how to do anything else at this point because we can't stand behind, we can't say, we are making a good quality product unless it's very forward-looking. So in our affordable housing, which we have to do for bottom dollar, this is subsidized affordable housing, we say that the only differences between this and the very high-end luxury housing is it's smaller, it's less detailed, and it's differently financed. Otherwise, the quality must be the same. And for us, that means that, and at this point, it's really that most buildings are net energy producers rather than consumers. We can do this now. And so we've got to do it. So I say it's very, very expensive. And you're talking about climate change. It's really expensive in terms of climate change to not do this. So we all just have to band together and learn to do it better. You struck a chord when you said planning for future generations, because this is central in our company right now. We are planning our next few generations. And as people have gone through their careers there and they're retiring, they're being replaced with younger people, and it's becoming their company. And how are they going to sustain that? How are they going to change it? How are they going to develop it? So we're always thinking out there, because that's, we don't see this as something that's just going to end. It's going to endure, and hopefully it's going to keep doing good work.
Can we talk a little bit, that's, what, it has to, go ahead.
But I need to interrupt you. I want to go back to
Go
what
ahead.
Shane was. Because the relative comparison he made was the person, Jeff, said, we can get this cheaper.
Yeah.
Shoddy construction is the basis of his argument. Food. We've learned in America to create cheap food. We've conditioned ourselves to shop for cheap food. We've even gone to the point in the state legislature of Massachusetts, the schools have to buy the food from the cheapest supplier. No one talks about nutritional value. We only have in a contract what it says there about the price has to be the cheapest. So when John's being lined up against, well, I can build a house 30% cheaper. Yeah, that's got nothing to do with, is it the kind of house you want to live in?
And is it going to last longer than the mortgage?
You know, and how are you going to feel energy-wise in that home relative to what we're spending in the old format versus the new? So again, when we talk about quality of life and sustainability, we've got to get out of our culture, in good old America, this idea of everything has to be cheap. And for all of our lives and all of the pieces of this puzzle, and I think that's where Martha's Vineyard comes back in and really has a place where if somebody comes here to get a job, then they don't want to leave. Why?
But it still has to work financially, and that I want to tell a great Steve Bernier story.
Please.
A local farmer here who makes great stuff, Alan Healy, told me this from Mermaid Farm. He said, you know, when we first went to sell our yogurt and our feta at Kronig's, I went in to talk to Steve. I was really nervous because I knew he was going to push my price down. And we sat down and talked for a while. And then he goes, and what are the prices? And I told him what I wanted to get. He said, Alan, and I was nervous. He said, Alan, I don't care what your price is. Whatever you tell me, I'm going to pay you. And then if it's too much, it's going to sit on the shelf. So I'm not going to buy a lot of it. So you set the price. You tell me what to pay. And he felt so honored by that.
That's very
And
beautiful.
that's what you can buy at Kronig's. You know, you can buy his and her yogurt that came through that. That's the collaboration. That's the people working together.
That's really beautiful. That brings me to the absolute question I wanted to talk about before we run out of time, the Island Grown Initiative, which is so fabulous. And are you part of that, John? I know Steve is his baby.
Let me say a couple.
Talk about it.
As a long time, you know, I have spent a tremendous amount of time working with nonprofits, working to get things done. In the last decade, I mean, I hope I'm not going to insult other people, but it just happens to be the truth. The most effective, leanest, most accomplished nonprofit on Martha's Vineyard has been the Island Grown Initiative. They have done so much, they have done so well. And I am so thrilled that our company, and everybody in our company, is equally thrilled that we are working with Island Grown on a far-reaching project. And maybe you should tell about it, but the one thing I will say about it is, once again, we're doing some project with Steve Bernier and with the Island Grown Initiative, and we're doing all kinds of things that we know nothing about. So it's a great learning experience.
Yeah, you learn. So Steve, tell us how it started. I mean, how did it, start evolving?
Without getting into some real minutia.
Which you could.
Yeah, which we could, but just, we were blessed with a couple who heard about this thimble farm down behind the alpaca farm. Yeah, it sits in West Tisbury and Oak Bluffs, 41 acres. And Sarah McKay's the president, and I'm part of the board. And we were blessed with a large check to purchase this farm.
Well, that was 2 years ago, right?
Yeah. So right now, what we're
That
working
long?
on,
We haven't done very much.
let's do that. We have to wait till next June for 2 years. But we are working with South Mountain Company because the farm has an APR, so there's like a big U-shaped portion, about 30-odd acres, tillable land. Then there's a building envelope where there's a 3/4 acre greenhouse. And we're proposing to build a meat processing facility, a cut and pack room, a commercial kitchen, a prep area, year-round housing, worker housing, composting program. We'll have poultry to get both the meat and the eggs to the schools. We just last week harvested our first crop, and we put about 70 pounds of greens into the cafeterias of the schools. So we're embarking with South Mountain Company on a design-build project to build this food hub. And yesterday, we had a meeting with this gentleman, Glenn Roberts, from Ansel Mills, and we're talking about a seed program that goes back more than 100 years, and staying away from GMOs, and dealing with the drifting issues in the air, and creating a seed program so Island Grown Schools, a subset of Island Grown Initiative, is getting involved in bringing that into the schools, into the curriculum, to teach the kids about what it is and how you keep a seed intact and functioning for 100 years. So again, thinking of generations to come. And just while visiting here, he's found 2 seeds on the island just walking around. His knowledge, viewpoint, his passion. So I said to him, I says, you're out here and you're donating your time, and you want to give us this piece of equipment. What are you all about? What's going on? And he says, well, our company, at the end of the year, when we've paid all our bills, whatever's left over, we write a check, and it goes out into research and development internationally for seeds. So he says, this piece I'm doing here, and by the way, we've got family on the island, and we've got a connection with Martha's Vineyard, and we were invited out here. He says, but it's absolutely beautiful, and it's absolutely perfect. And he says, you need to have a seed bank.
Seed bank. So what is this company? Just so I have a note of that.
I don't have that down in writing. I don't think I can.
But this
get that.
really
this
is, this is a farm hub for
Yeah.
the island that brings so many things that island farmers don't have now. They don't have a slaughterhouse. Everything goes off island. They don't have a kitchen facility where you can make value-added food products. So it's bringing all these facilities that don't exist today.
And keeping as much local sourcing of produce and meat here. Also, I mean, it's just kind of phenomenal that you're dealing with directly head-on GMOs and creating non-GMO foods, because that's one of the biggest problems with farms, right? And the sweeping into the other farms with the seeds.
Yeah, that's huge. The other piece that's also huge on this island is gluten-free. And our
Right.
school budget just went up 21%, and most of that is around the ADD issue with what the teachers are dealing with kids sitting in the classroom. And come to find out, gluten is an interesting component in that. So yesterday at the meeting, we're talking to this guy who's a seed guru, and I said to him, well, we just can't do conventional and a gluten-free program. Could we do just gluten-free? We talked for 10, 15 minutes and came back and go, that would be an interesting laboratory to create. Is a seed program, those fields out there, and growing stuff that created products in the kitchen that was all gluten-free. And to bring that into the schools to see what that could do to help the kids with their diet and the amount of gluten we're intaking.
You know, one thing that you skimmed over, I just want to say this because Shane wouldn't know that, was the couple that bought the property. So I assume we're not allowed to say who that is. Okay, so we won't. But I mean, that was an act of community and humility that I think was pretty major, because you and a group of people on the island were struggling. This farm was going to be sold. It was in private hands. And Steve and I think John, you were part of it. No, Steve was part of it.
Steve and Sarah.
Steve and
Sarah's
Sarah.
president.
We're trying to negotiate that this man would sell it to at a reasonable price to the island, and he wasn't going to do that. I mean, land here is very valuable. So comes in, the island raised some money. Steve and Sarah raised some money, but it wasn't enough. And we're talking millions. And this couple came in, and they're actually Wall Street. Not that they are on Wall Street, but they're in the finance world. A big company, very famous. And they came in and quietly wrote a check because they said they're part of the community. They're here in the summer. They don't live here year round. But that's the kind of ethic of the island. They're part of the community, so they felt like they had a responsibility to help where they could. And I think that's so beautiful. And I think it was amazing that you got that done. And it was like a little kid skipping around talking about it. It's hard to imagine, but that's true.
I think the fact that things do happen on Martha's Vineyard that are tougher to do in other places because of things like that makes us feel more responsibility to do things that people can come here, see, and take away. So there's some kind of reciprocity there in people bring funds, we do things, people come and see that, they take it back to their communities, and there is really fertilization going on.
Excellent. So, John, you absolutely are. John Abrams and Steve Bernier, thank you so much for being part of our show today. We're on That Matters Live, and I'm here with Monica Mitchell, who is my wonderful co-hostess. Monica, sign us off today. Give us some words. As someone who comes here to Martha's Vineyard and loves this island, give us a sign off, and then I'll have these guys do their 5 words of wisdom.
Well, they said so much wisdom, because taking it away with you and the fertilization that goes on. I mean, I felt it from the moment I stepped on the island 15 years ago. I used to go to the Cape, and I happened to come here, and I was like, whoa, there's magic here. And I can't explain what it is, but if you get touched by the magic, and not everybody is, I've had people that said, oh, it's too rustic for me. If you get touched by the magic, you want to somehow carry that magic in your heart all year round. So thanks so much for what you guys do. It's amazing, and I'm so thrilled that you're here today, because I do love this island, and I do love both of you and everything you do for it.
This is actually very vineyard-like right here. The theater is set up in a kitchen on the kitchen counter.
It's so perfect.
Feels like home to me.
It is home.
All right, everybody. Thanks again. I appreciate it. Be sure you check us out at facebook.com/ThatMatters. And also, we'll be doing some quick edits of this video, and we appreciate you guys watching us. Have a great one, and enjoy. Enjoy your upcoming winter. It's approaching quite quickly.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks to both of you.